Hello. So I am doing session 3 video assignment, and this one is about stock valuation. So just jumping right into it. We were assigned the prompt. Where is it? In an imaginary scenario, you've inherited 75K from your great aunt, invest it into Microsoft basically, which is trading at 380 right now. So we're going to start off by using the driver framework, which if we go to here, we have the define and discover stage. So what I did was I basically copy and pasted that prompt and I just cut it out and bullet pointed what the information we needed is. So you've inherited 75K, you want to invest in quality companies, so Microsoft is currently trading at 380, which is where we're going to put the money for now. And then Microsoft pays annual dividend 3%, dividends grow 10% annually last 5 years, expect 4% growth. S&Ps return 10% annually. The treasury bonds currently yield 4.5%, and then you can alternatively put the money in savings. So for the discover part of it, we need to know what Microsoft is worth using the DDM, which is the dividend discount method. And so the formula for this is V0 equals D1 divided by K minus G. So first we need to define what those even are. So D1 is the expected dividend per share 1 year from now. So it'd just be the 3 times it'd be 1 plus, but the 4% growth rate that they're predicting. The K is the required rate of return, which is just how much the investor wants to have for it to be profitable. And so then you just use the treasury bonds. In Gemini right here, the risk-free rate is the 4.5%, and the expected market return is 10%, and it used 90 as the beta. So it would be that, which is the non-risk rate, plus the beta times the risk rate, which would be the S&P 500 minus the treasury bonds, which is the risk-free one. So you get about a 9.45% or that decimal. And then G is just the expected constant dividend growth rate, which is just the analyst predict. So if you plug that all into the formula, you get the intrinsic value of the stock today, which is $57.25. So that's important, and keep in mind that $380 per share is what the actual price is. So it is sensitive if we're using these growth assumptions, because G, which is the expected constant dividend growth rate, if you change that, it changes the price as a whole. So I'll get to that later when we look at our collab, but we'll move on to the next question for now and circle back to that. So if you buy at $380, you get 197.36 shares just by taking the total price of it by the each stock price, the each individual share price. So we'll get back to that number, how much you're expected to return. And then is $380 a good buying price? We're gonna go with no right now, because the intrinsic value that you got is $57.25, and it's selling for $380 right now. So you don't value it. That's what you value it, is the intrinsic value. You don't value it at $380 right now. You value it way lower than that. So you wouldn't want to buy it. And then also our expected return is way less than our required return. So we're expected to get 4.82% return, and then the required rate is 9.45. So basically, to do this math, you would just do 197.3, or you just do the 75K times 4.82. But And then it asks, should you invest the full 750 or 75K or partial or look elsewhere? So right now, when I was getting help from the Gemini, it says that you should look elsewhere because of how because of the where's it at? Because of how much you value it and then how much it is. That's way too big of it. And then also the expected return is not nearly as good. So these two questions kind of go hand in hand. But basically, I had Gemini help me with these problems. And so I would do the handheld calculations and then I would compare it to Gemini's answers, which we're going to get into the third aspect of that in a second here. So, then we're going to represent it. So we have the initial investment, and that's this minus 75K because you just pay that. And then in dividends, you get back $3 per share, which is, what's it called? You'll get the $3 per share and then the 4% growth rate, and that is per share. So you multiply that by 197. And then that cycle keeps going on from year 2 to year 3 it just keeps going. So that's what the flow looks like. And then we're finally into the implement stage, which is the collab notebook. And so I'll go into my Gemini prompt, and I basically said that we've answered these questions together and I need a simple Python code that can help me analyze this investment. But the caveat was I needed the variables to be ones that I already had. So I inserted my define and discover stage in there so it knows that I have 75K, the share price, which we'll see. And so it gave me this. So I exported into Colab and let's see what it got me. So you go through, it's the DDM method, and then the input variables are 750K. Microsoft is the stock symbol. Current price, it shows the $380, and then the annual dividend, and then the expected growth rate, and then the S&P 500, which is the expected return to the overall market, and then the treasury bonds, which is the risk-free investment. It has that percentage right there. And then the beta is just an estimate for a company like Microsoft. So, and then the savings account alternative, by the way. So you see that it has all the variables that we already have, which we can switch that, and I'll show you in a second here. But if I click run, then go down to here, it does the math for me, and it gives me this investment analysis, which this is the most successful collab experience I've had. I just plugged it in and it worked instantly. So the current stock price is $380. DDM intrinsic value is 57.25. So the stock price is way too high for what we believe, or I believe should be it. So then it gives me the required rate and the expected return rate, which is exactly what I got. So this is also with my validation stage. I'm validating my claims, and it gives me a conclusion as well. So, and then it compares to the alternatives, and then the recommendation is it's not a good buy because the expected return is low, and the DDM says it's overvalued. So we'll go to here now. That's the validate. Evolve, you asked us how would different growth assumptions change your valuation. So here's where we evolve this. And this is the assumed growth rate, and it goes with that value. So right now it's 4%. This is 57.25. So let's go up here and change our growth rate to 10%. now if we do that, this comes back to, where's it at? The very sensitive, because G, if we change it to 10% instead of 4%, you're gonna keep climbing this ladder. Where's it at? You just keep going up. So you see that it increases by around $6 each time. So it would be up to like 130 ish, because you can see by the pattern here. It would go up by 130 ish, but that's still lower than your $380, which is your market value. So you can see that the growth assumptions change your valuation. Let's say it got all the way up to 380, then you would say, yes, I'll buy this stock. And then finally, what does the gap between your valuation and market price tell you? So it would just be, we value it at 57.25 and it's going for 380. So this is a huge gap. Like, it is a $330 difference or $320 difference. So what it is saying about the DDM is that it leaves out some key details. Like, if you're investing in Microsoft, maybe you think that Google is going to skyrocket, and Gemini, that just helped me with this assignment, you're betting on Gemini to do good. And you also get perks, like of being a shareholder if you have enough of it. And then finally, just the development. Like, the stock could go up. This is not a guaranteed evaluation of it, and it's just our opinion when we use the DDM. It leaves out lots of things. So like, it leaves out the growth beyond dividend, and then the buyback, stuff like that. So overall, I think this is one of my most successful assignments. I feel like I understand it a lot better. The dividend discount method, I feel like I understand it more, and I also feel like it was nice doing it handheld, like these calculations myself, then comparing it to the AI, then comparing it to my Python code. So it was nice to see that all of them got validated in some way. So overall, this assignment took me some time, but in the end it was worth it, and I am really like doing these assignments. So I hope that I keep up doing the good work and just developing as a student. So thank you.